Well, I remember walking into a meeting down at Raven. There were like 25 people in the conference room there. And I said, hey, I've got a meeting with Matt when he's out and Heidi when they're out of there. And they go, Tom, that's your meeting. And Lewis and Raven have basically come in and said, look, we're going to take you under our wing for the next year and grow this with you. And I literally started weeping because when you carry something like we've been carrying this for 10 or 12 years now, I feel like Moses in the desert. You just don't know what it is. You feel like it's a really good thing. I've sunk a lot of time, energy, and money into this thing. And when you feel alone as an entrepreneur. You feel at the top of that and you feel like nobody cares. Remember that AI doesn't replace creativity. I think, I've seen so many just AI presentations these days. The idea is still the idea. In order to write a jingle for someone, you have to become that person or that group. And so I would say really ingrain yourself about understanding your audience and how they want to be spoken to, not about your brand and what it needs to say. What does that audience want to hear from that brand?
On Creative Assembly's The Spark podcast, our mission is to amplify Nashville's diverse creative voices, foster growth through shared journeys, and inspire a city that thrives on collaboration. And now, here's The Spark.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Spark. I'm your host, Mark Scrivener, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Tom Woodard, with the Ability Machine. I'm really excited to hear more about everything Tom's working on, and I know you all will as well. Tom, welcome to the show, man. It's so great to have you on.
Mark, it's great to be here, man.
Yeah, man. I've just watched you through the years as we've tried to figure out our agency, and it's been fun to watch your journey.
Well, thanks, man. It's been a lot of fun to watch your journey, so this is great. We're going to play a mutual admiration society today.
Yeah, man.
I like it.
You've done this for a while now and, working on some exciting things now. But before we get into that, maybe if you could just take the audience back through your journey. What got you into this? What all have you done up to this point to get you to where you're at today?
Gosh, I'll take you way back, Mark. But I do have to kind of go back. I'm a native Nashvilleian, so I was born and raised here, around the country music industry that was here, in the 70s, and I went to school here and graduated in the first graduating class at Franklin Road Academy, and which was a lot of fun. And so we built things. We were building stuff here, and played guitar since I was 8. And I got into the jingle business first before I got into the agency business. And so in the mid-'80s, I was working at a little department store called Kane Sloan, which is now Dillard. Definitely showing my age now. and I met a guy named Pat Patrick, and Pat had a little jingle company and had a society band. And I met him at a party on Friday night, and he said, "Man, you ought to come to work for me sometime." I was a fledgling songwriter. And so I quit my job on Saturday and showed up at his doorstep on Monday. Wow. And he had one little hair that was kind of there, and he would always comb it like that. And he goes, "Did I hire you?" And I said, "Yeah, you did on Friday night." And he goes, "Wow, I must have had too many beers or something, whatever." But he goes, "If you can sell something, I'll let you write it." And that was the beginning of my advertising marketing career right there on that Monday. He put a phone out there. About 2 weeks later, I called Brunel College, a little secretarial pool college here back in the day.
Yeah.
And they go, "Yes, we do need a jingle." And I was there in 30 seconds, played them my reel. And
that was your first jingle?
First jingle. They had $10,000 budget, 30 campuses, and a guy named Stan Exitis and I wrote a song called "Make a Move for Tomorrow." Wow. And that was our first jingle, and I spent a long time in the jingle business. Got to work with agencies all over the country. I sort of embedded myself as a biz dev guy with art director, writer teams, and with creative directors, became friends, took them to ball games. And, I was in the McDonald's when Bob Merlotti wrote "Did Somebody Say McDonald's?" And so I got to be at a lot of different cool places by doing that, and made a lot of friends all over the country, from Miami to, from Lintus to Wieden Kennedy, from Connor Hills, Cosmopolis in Boston to working in shops in L.A. So it was a really cool thing. And then we built different jingle companies. And then in about 2000, it changed. Went to work and helped build a place called I.O. Studio, which is a wonderful agency here. Yeah. They had about 30 employees. We grew it to about 350. I was biz dev, senior creative for a while. And then did a big rebrand here of all the dailies to twice daily stores. That was another thing we did. and then started my own little firm, and that began the journey over the last 10 or 12 years that has landed me today sitting, having founded a place called the Ability Machine.
Yeah. Well, just going back in the jingles, and we've interviewed so many like very interesting guests on the show, and it's like things that maybe people might not know about people in Nashville. Is there a jingle or two that stand out that you go, man, these were a couple I'm super proud of?
Yeah, everybody knows me for a big one we did, and I was doing a lot of music for some guys in St. Louis, and they called me one day and said, "Can you make a frog say Budweiser?" And I said it ought to be 3. And we grabbed me and a guy named Ronnie Brooks and Brian Steckler, and we were the 3 voices of Budweiser. And my mom didn't make any fools, so I was Bud. And that was in '95. It played in 7 Super Bowls, so that was the biggest thing we ever did. Maybe not the most intricate, took the most talent, but it was that moment when you answer the phone and you do what they ask you to do.
God, everybody knows that, though. Everyone. I'm glad
a quick funny story, though. I spoke to an entrepreneur class at MTSU recently, and somebody introduced me and said he's the guy that did the Bud Frogs, and there wasn't a student in the room that knew what they were talking about, which was great. I told them I wrote the Twice Daily jingle, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we've heard that at the pumps." So it was kind of funny to have a whole new generation of folks that might study it in textbooks, but it's not something that's part of their vernacular.
Wow. Well, what coming up to current day, what sparked the idea for Ability Machine?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't want to go too far back into the story, but it's kind of a fun story. I had a little agency, and we were doing some great work here in Nashville, and we started. My brother and I started a little company to pack boxes, and the whole idea was that people with and without disability working together. And I've always had a heart. I wanted to find my why in my second mountain of life, and so we had an opportunity to start working with guys with different disabilities. And I had a young man already working for me that was doing data entry. His dad was my graphic designer. And I said, "Hey, you have autism. Is that a disability? We need someone with a disability to help us pack these boxes." And he goes, "I don't know. I'll ask my mom." And so he went home that night, asked her. Sure enough, he came back all excited. "Autism, yes, it's a disability." And so he and I started packing boxes together on a state contract that we have. And that was a kind of a sidebar thing we were doing. And one day I got mad at myself and said, "You know what? People with disability can do a lot more than pack a box, wipe a table, stock a shelf." And so I asked everybody that was packing boxes, "What would you do if you came to work at the agency?" And one guy goes, "Hey, I'm making a movie." Another guy goes, "I'm writing a book." And another guy drew this really cool illustration about 30 seconds. And I was like, "Stop." So I bought 4 iMacs, put them along the back wall, and started bringing these guys into our creative meetings, and had no idea what we were doing. And it just felt right. Kind of called by God. I laughingly say I blame God and give God all the credit every day. And we just kind of followed our hearts, and we love people through that. And what I say now is we finally gave, as Pat did for me in the jingle business, we wanted to give guys with disability a seat at the creative table. And it was really funny because it felt like every creative I had ever worked with in the past at every agency around the country, I would be willing to bet most of them were on the spectrum. And so it was a very familiar place for me. And so I started calling all our friends around the city and saying, "Hey, would you put a little desk at your place and let our guys come and be a part of your agencies?" And nobody bid. Everybody thought it was a great idea, but nobody bid. And one day I asked Jeffrey Bunton and said, "Hey, man, why aren't y'all putting a desk for us at your place?" And he goes, "Because you're asking me to take care of someone with a disability. We're not equipped for that." And so that sort of started the catalyst. And then a group called Raven Public Relations came to me and said, "We think you should go do this and make it really official and employ people with disabilities." And I don't think there's very many people doing this in the country. And so we have a very unique 6,000 square foot studio over in Berry Hill, where people with and without disability come together to support agencies. We don't want to be an agency of record, and to support brands in content creation, illustration, strategy, different things. And we sit at the table with a different window.
Wow!
So that's what we're doing.
That's amazing too. What a great story. I can't wait to dig into it
Let's
even
go.
more. I mean, you've done so many like big projects in the creative space. I guess what's been like a big challenge? Has there been any big challenges that you've had to face kind of going from that, moving from the big creative to more of the mission driven, even though you're still doing creative, but it's very mission driven what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the glitz and glamour goes away a little bit, which is cool. And, as you get older, it's not as important.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blessed to travel all over the country and do some amazing things and go to Grammys and go to, different award shows and do things. This is really about watching someone else light up. And I've learned in my life that it's I'm not as important as I used to think I was. And that loving others and caring for others is a big part of my faith. And it's a big part of, I think, what we all should be doing these days. And so to watch someone sit at a table that hasn't had purpose or hasn't had meaning before in their life, and they feel wanted at the creative table, is what brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah. What do you, like you mentioned that about in the early days with Jeffrey and saying, hey, we're not equipped.
Yeah.
And what are some of the early common things that maybe agency owners or other creatives get wrong about what you're doing?
Yeah.
And then what have you seen like long term as you start to prove out everything you're doing?
I think the biggest thing is that people wanted to see it as let's call Tom and give him something because he's doing some good work. He's doing something good. And so we're kind of patting us on the head for what we were doing. And we really want to do real work. I mean, the idea is to if a person can't do 100% of the work, someone has a disability, and they only do 20% of the work, maybe that day, the next day 60, because we're living with that disability. That it doesn't go away. We say, let them sit at the table. We'll take that 20 and turn it into 100. We'll take that 60 and turn it into 100. So it allows them a seat at the table. And we have various things in the studio that help it be accommodating for people with disabilities, whether it's access, whether it's lighting, whether we have a quiet room where we can go. We're set up for that. We have counselors on staff that work with us.
Oh, wow.
That are a part of a whole daytime program that we have. And people with autism and varying intellectual disabilities have trouble with deadlines. They have trouble with last-minute changes. They have, and that's all we do in this business, right? And so we have to insulate them a little bit from that and still allow them to be there or not be there. May come in and their meds aren't good that day and they're going to lay on the sofa. We got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And so then we pick it up and carry it for them. So it's a team effort, very collaborative. I learned that early on in songwriting. I'd much rather co-write a song with you than to sit and knock something out myself. And so I think the kind of my background of all of that lent itself to what we're doing today.
Mm-hmm. And so you, that's amazing. You have counselors there too helping, but I guess you have like other creative directors, creatives that are working with you that help kind of guide some of these projects along.
That's right. It's we use more of an Avenger model. You've got a great staff here and all that. We haven't gotten to that place yet, but we're working on that. And so I'll depending on the project we're given, let's say, we'd love to do some work with you guys, find a project to work on, and we would bring an interesting window to that project. And I may get on the table early in strategy or whatever, or in audience identification and messaging. And but then when someone else is sitting there, they have I'll never forget, we redid the Goo Goo building with the Spradley family. We were really blessed out on 3rd, and Laurie and Jimmy hired us to come in and kind of just be eyes for them and look at it as a consumer. I remember the first meeting we had, this was several years ago, and they walked in and I had about 5 guys with autism sitting at the table. One of them's drawing purple goo-goos, but he was there. He had a purpose. He had a collared shirt on. He was on the team. Did any of his final artwork end up? No. But he was a participant at the creative table. And we saw this amazing transformation in him. He eventually lost 100 pounds, walking every day with us at our place, and had purpose, and would go home and ask his parents, "Hey, man, I wonder what I'm going to do tomorrow. on the Goo account. And he had never been asked to be creative. And we have this saying on the wall from him. It says, "Y'all ain't ready for my creativity." And he had been diagnosed early in life in Florida, and he's in his 50s. And nobody had ever asked him to be creative or use a computer or edit or draw. And just by giving him the tools and the permission, it's been a whole world opened up to him.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that about the Goo Goo clusters, because as I was doing research on you, I saw so many amazing projects that you've been involved in along the way, and that was one of them. And I didn't have a question teed up around it, but I'm like, man, I hope he talks about that.
It was cool, man. It's a great store. It's obviously a great Nashville brand. It's the Spradley family picked it up after a while, after it had kind of gotten going, and has such a rich history. And they're such a great family and a great brand, so we were humbled to work with them. And the store's doing well, I hear. It's what's not doing well down on Broadway right now, right?
Totally. Well, you mentioned that sometimes short deadlines or changes at the end, can maybe cause a challenge. But I mean, looking back, have you ever known a creative person that didn't affect?
Exactly.
Because I see it all the time.
Exactly.
I'm sure you have. So.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, that's part of the biz, but also part of why you love and hate clients. Love and hate this business. And so, but we insulate them from that. Instead of freaking out and weirding out over that, we just go, we got this. And over time, they learn that this is okay. We're not there to train away their disability. We're there to let them participate. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing you're passionate about this. And I'm sure you probably you tiptoed into it to see how it was going to work out. And now you're all in. And how's it affected you now? I can only imagine how you're feeling about it.
It's scary every day. You're a business owner, you know that. Mm-hmm. It's a tough thing. It's not easy. There's a reason 85% of all people with disabilities are underemployed. It's hard. And I thought I could train away their disability, and we all think they should be working 40 hours a week. You have to play to their strengths. So you do a little Tai Chi, and then you have to cover their weaknesses. But again, you mentioned it. It's very much like a creative team. I remember there were creative teams I've represented that there's no way I would let the client meet. And there are other creative teams you'd take into the first meeting because that was the best impression. So it's changed me. I think again, I mentioned it earlier, but I think as you get older, you realize it's not about you. And so what can this vehicle do for more people? It allows me to get to work with great people, but it gives guys an opportunity that they would never have, and that brings a lot of joy to me. So,
Do you, I guess today you're working with agencies. Mm-hmm. How far out do you go? Is it mostly Nashville, mostly Tennessee agencies that you've built relationships with throughout the years?
Yeah, that's a great question. We just had a great article come out in Fast Company, thanks to Raven. I was blown away by how she wrote it, and it's so cool to hear someone else tell your story. I do it a lot, but it's so great to realize that the story matters, and the way she wrote that was just amazing. And I'm humbled by the reaction to it right now. We've gotten calls from CEOs from agencies from London and Toronto and New York, and people wanting to know what we're doing. I had an hour and a half phone call yesterday with a really cool agency down in Atlanta that hired us to do some stuff on the spot, just based on the heart and what we're doing and some of the work she had seen online. So it's humbling, man. It's really humbling to be a part of this. I don't think I would have built a new agency at my age. I wouldn't have just gone, hey, let's just go start this without this purpose in the middle of it. And where it goes, I don't know. Will we have offices everywhere? I don't know. What I do know is the more work we get, the more people we can hire, and the more collaborative efforts we can have with brands. And we're having a lot of fun right now. Yeah, a whole lot of fun, and producing some pretty good work.
Well, I was going to ask you what you see this evolving into, but I'm sure it's going to continue to grow and scale. Do you see, maybe today or in the near future, do you see like agency folks in different areas want to come over and be a part of it? As far as like, hey, I'd like to work over there a day a week and help out and be a part of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have a daytime studio program where individuals with disability that aren't a part of the Ability Machine come and work. A little thing called On the Avenue, and it's they exist together,
Yeah.
and there's a beauty in that. And so, yeah, there's great opportunity to come volunteer. We shot the Addies one year during COVID, and they did it all at our studio, working with our team.
Really?
And so that was 6 years ago. And so, that is the whole idea: is we want you guys to come play at our place and serve and feel that feeling I get to feel every day of that. Go home and feel like I've done something really good, not just some good work, but done something really good as well, and get a pat on the back from a guy that's just thankful to be there at the table.
Yeah. How do the two organizations kind of coexist? Like,
it's a great question too. We have very different staffs, totally different companies. They totally different directors and people that work at them. Not every person at On the Avenue shows up at the Ability Machine. But we take 10% of all of our gross dollars off of the Ability Machine, and we donate them to the 501c3.
Okay.
And so that's a funding mechanism we have to scholarship people in that program. And but there is not really they coexist together because it creates a real world work environment for someone to learn in. So it's very much like having an internship program for that. And not everybody matriculates from On the Avenue to the Ability Machine, but it gives them something to shoot at. It's kind of cool. And then there are days where it gets loud and there's Tourette's going on and there's all kinds of things happening in the studio that might not be a part of your traditional agency.
Yeah. What do you, I mean, maybe not real long term, but
Sure.
what, like in the next 3 to 5 years, like what do you hope that this continues to turn into? Yeah,
that's a really great question. One of our lines at the Ability Machine is we create merchandise, and I brought you a little bag of that, and we're growing that in retail space. So we sell that, and that creates scholarship dollars for the nonprofit. Everything has a mission. Everything is there to allow people that weren't allowed at the table to have a chance to be at the table. And so I would say we want to strengthen the shop we have right here and make it really, really strong. I want to grow that staff, and that just takes business, as you know. It just takes people coming on board and hiring us. And I don't know that I want a big agency. I don't know that I want a large 200-man shop and all of that. Maybe if that's what God's got planned for this, that'd be great. If it's not, we want to support agencies. There are a lot of great agencies, especially now in this town. Back in the day, there weren't, and now there are. And so in the Nashville area, we really want to support those agencies by doing a small piece of the project. And then it gives those agencies the ability to do what we're doing without having to hire a staff of people with disability and bring in people with care and have a quiet room and have a place that they feel comfortable in. We have that. And so we can add that by simply being a part of that project.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to miss the opportunity because that article that was written about you was so good. We're going to drop it in the show notes, make sure that everybody gets a chance to read that too. So I was so well done. And
was well done. Thanks to Raven. And I got to thank the folks over at Lewis. We all know those guys.
They're amazing.
They did a great job. Robert Frozier's team, Nancy and all those guys. And Katie Penninger and I've been on the AF boards forever, and I'm so humbled. I remember walking into a meeting down at Raven. There were like 25 people in the conference room there, and I said, "Hey, I've got a meeting with Matt when he's out, and Heidi when they're out of there." And they go, "Tom, that's your meeting." And Lewis and Raven have basically come in and said, "Look, we're going to take you under our wing for the next year and grow this with you." And I literally started weeping because when you carry something like we've been carrying this for 10 or 12 years now, I feel like Moses in the desert. You just don't know what it is. You feel like it's a really good thing. I've sunk a lot of time, energy, and money into this thing. And you feel alone as an entrepreneur. You feel at the top of that, and you feel like nobody cares. And everybody goes home and leaves the place a mess, and you clean it up, and and the business owner. But to have a group, two groups like Raven and Lewis, care enough to put their money on the table, put their time on the table. Nancy had flown up from Mobile. Robert had come in town. I was just literally moved to tears. And we work together to build the brand, and it's theabilitymachine.com, which is, I think, a really cool brand. I think Lewis will win some awards for that. And it was fun to work. So I got to work with the Lewis team to do that. And that was kind of the iteration of what it looks like to work with the Ability Machine.
Well, you've talked about some of my favorite folks,
Aren't they great?
Robert and Katie and the Lewis team. I mean, they're amazing.
Pros, man.
And Raven as well. I know all the folks you're working with.
Big fan.
To get the word out has been doing amazing.
They've been doing a great job. And to go to Lewis's site right now and have our brand be the thing that's featured on the homepage, and then to go to Raven and they're out putting articles out about themselves and the work they've done with the Ability Machine is. It's pretty cool. And so I don't know where this goes, man. I'm ready for the ride. I've got a 16-year-old son. I'm not done yet. I'm ready to go, man. We've kind of reinvigorated me in a really good way.
Yeah. Well, you know, over the years, you have built a reputation of really like mentoring a lot of creative folks and showing them their purpose in life. And now bringing that to today and, you know, showing more really creative people their purpose. It's, you know, I know it's got to be super rewarding. Taking it back though, like, I mean, you know, in the early days, you know, I love the story that we had right before we got started, which was, you know, back in the early days of the old agencies that used to be in town.
Yeah.
You know,
well, yeah, I remember those days like they were yesterday. I mean, as we all do. You had Eric Erickson and Jeffrey Bunton Sr., and they would battle for stuff. And you can hear all kinds of war stories about that. And it was interesting because I wasn't in the agency business then. I was selling music. And then Eric Erickson passed away. The leader of the big ship of Erickson passed away, and the competition between Erickson and Bunton went away. And I think it really hurt the Nashville community. Bunton is awesome at what they do, and they've been awesome at what they do for a long time. But I think every market needs competition, no matter what you're in. And I think it keeps us all honest, makes us all work harder. You and I were talking about there's enough to go around. Back then there wasn't, and people would not look at Nashville as an advertising community or as a place to go. And they didn't. The local shops didn't do music in Nashville. They would go to New York because they wanted to go to New York and hang out, or they'd go to L.A. And nobody was producing here in Nashville. And so it was a very, very different advertising community back then. And then you had, you know, groups like Carton and Cherry come up, and you know all the Purity stuff they were doing, and my old buddy Gil Templeton and those guys, and Buster and all those guys, and then they make the Vern movies and. We were a true hee-haw town. If you remember hee-haw, that's what we were. And we couldn't shake it. And, you know, now you fast forward from all those old days, and that's what's amazing about shops like David Bohan and Bunton and GS&F and some of those guys that have seen it through a lot of stuff and are still here. That's cool. A lot of new shops have come up in the last 10, 15 years. And that's great. I've gotten to know some of those guys through AAF, and now this town is just so filled with creativity, and I just hope we don't lose the charm we used to have.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people could learn a lot from you, but like thinking about it today, what advice would you give to maybe a young creative to be inspired to do some of the big stuff that you've done in the past? Like how'd you dig deep to come up with some of those killer campaigns? Is there 2 or 3 things you'd go, you got to have this, this, and this?
Yeah, I would say answer the phone. I think make the phone call. I think a lot of people get lost in their work every day, and they don't keep looking at what's next and keep moving forward. And so, dude, I answered the phone call and did a lot of things before I became a frog. And I was a pirate and, doing crazy stuff. And so be willing to do stuff. That would be my first. Remember that AI doesn't replace creativity. I think, I've seen so many just AI presentations these days. The idea is still the idea. And then Pat Patrick told me this and taught me this literally in my first week at work. He said, in order to write a jingle for someone, you have to become that person or that group. And so I would say really ingrain yourself about understanding your audience and how they want to be spoken to, not about your brand and what it needs to say. What does that audience want to hear from that brand? And I think those three things, if you just answer the phone and do the work and show up and be willing to stay late and sacrifice some things and dig into your community, if you look at the audience and craft the message for them, I think those two things go a long way.
It's so funny you say that about just answering the phone. In the early days of Snapshot, when we launched, we did a lot of video, and basically, we worked with a couple agencies here and there to do some video content for their clients, and every time we would call them, nobody would answer the phone, and it was like, oh man, how we're on a deadline, we got to deliver this, and nobody's answering over there. And so we actually put on our very first website, it was the number, and down below it in quotes, it was, we actually answer.
It's awesome, dude.
So
but
for you to say that, it was, You
know what that is. And don't be afraid of that, of the phone call, and so, I just think we found so many ways to communicate that we don't. And nothing like having a conversation.
Yeah.
I get to know you better by having a conversation and looking in your eyes and hearing your tone and seeing your nonverbals, as my wife calls them. So we'll leave that. But anyway, so it's I think it's really important to answer the call and bring your shovel to work. It's not easy.
What does success look like for the Ability Machine to you?
Sustainability and bringing people to the creative table. That's success for me. And sustainability isn't doing it cheaper. It isn't doing it faster. It's doing it correctly in the right way, keeping advertising, marketing, creativity, content creation a human process. AI is a great tool. All the digital stuff is great. I started blade editing tape and all those things. There's something about the human interaction of being together, and I think success looks like sustainability of that, and having agencies call and bring us into their world or their project under NDA without feeling threatened by that, and that to me would be huge success. If I were doing a project with you and Bohan and Bunton and GSNF all at the same time, that would be a major win. If my ragtag band of merry men could do that, that would be huge.
Well, as I was doing a little bit of digging on you, and
watch out,
the Ability Machine, what I saw, like something in the philosophy of you calling the team citizens and not like employees or participants in a project. What is? Talk a little bit about that philosophy.
Yeah, I have a philosophy that we're all just broken human beings traversing the planet. And I won't go down my faith walk too heavy, but I loved the term citizens. And when we had On the Avenue, as it's kind of the predecessor of this, or the philanthropic piece of this, I hate that word, but it explains it well. I thought we were all citizens on the Avenue. I thought it was a cool term, and I kept trying to throw it away. And people call them friends or this or that. And I was like, no, we're all citizens. And I would dare anybody early on to walk into our shop and know who's staff, who's a part of the daytime studio program, who has a disability and who doesn't. And so we tried to create a vernacular that made everyone feel a part of the process. And we're all just citizens here on the planet. So that was where that came from.
Yeah. Going back to the Budweiser frogs.
Yeah.
So we had another participant on, DB Sweeney, actor.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And DB lives in Nashville. He's getting ready to, new movie will be out by the time this podcast come out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Called The Protector. But he was the voice of Budweiser for a few years.
Yeah.
And I think we may have mentioned the Budweiser frogs on there.
Oh, cool.
But he said that Budweiser would call him every year and go, would you want tickets to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, of course.
Yeah.
I guess, did you ever get to go to the Super Bowl based on...
It's funny. No, I didn't. I didn't get to go to the Super Bowl. I had a lot of crazy stuff happen. And if you want to share a couple of stories about that?
Maybe just one.
I'll give you one on, let's see. I did get to go a really cool thing we got to do is the very first spot was done in animatronics. And I don't know if you remember animatronics, but it was created by a guy named Stan Winston, who had created Jurassic Park and Congo. And so the guys in St. Louis got this big budget to go do the film on the frogs, and we'd already created the audio track. And so I got to fly to L.A. and meet Stan and be on the set with him. This was literally right after he had done these things, these huge movies. And so a kid from Nashville getting to go out there and hang out and do that. And we got to see the Rolling Stones and Chili Peppers at the Rose Bowl. And so it wasn't the Super Bowl, but yeah, it afforded me some stuff. It was great. Got to be on the Maury Povich show. And so it was a fun 7-8 year run with my buddies that were Wise and that we got to go around the country and show up at different events. That was more. August Bush would use us as this kind of like we were his pets. So we would show up at different events.
I can only imagine.
It was crazy. I've got all kinds of stories. It was crazy.
Yeah. What, I guess if somebody wanted to get connected with you and even maybe become a part of the Ability Machine, like how do they do that? What's the easiest way?
Call my cell number. I answer the phone. I've done that since 1992. I'm going to keep doing it.
And you don't mind us dropping in the show notes?
Drop it in the show notes.
You know, we cater to a lot of agency owners, a lot of creatives around town, and I could just think that a lot of people are going to get inspired
that's awesome.
About the story behind this.
Yeah, call my cell phone or shoot me an email or whatever and all that. If you drop that in, that'd be great. Our website's theabilitymachine.com. I think my number's actually on there. And we have a little studio in Berry Hill. Come by and have an average cup of coffee with us and see what we're doing, and let's think up something to do together.
Yeah. Well, let's talk just a little bit about like if an agency wanted to utilize you. I know you ran through the services. Yeah. Is there, like, tell us every service that you offer, and then also like, are there some that maybe we're even better at than others? I can only imagine with your storytelling background.
Yeah, you know, I guess I'm sort of the lead duck there, and what I try to do is bring people with me to that table. So, you know, I'll start at strategy, and whiteboarding is my favorite thing to do. It takes me back to my old songwriting days. And then we whatever pops out. We do a lot of illustration work. We did a project for Logan's where we did a bunch of placemats for Veterans Day, and it was a part of an overall campaign. So we were just the little sliver of that. We did a coloring book for Mercedes where it went with a pack of crayons, and it was, I think there were 6 cities. We did little characters from each city and little buildings from each city. And so the kids that mom and dad were buying a $100,000 car, the kid could sit and color, and then did some note cards for salespeople to follow up. So those are the little kind of projects we love to do. We just completed a 40-spot video series. I can't name the client, but it was a startup clothing company here in Nashville. And weirdly enough, I ended up being the talent on it, which was kind of fun. I got to play a little character, and they'll be coming out in the next few months, and I think they're turned out pretty well. So helped write scripts in that, and then we shot all that, did a lot of AI animation in that, and I've got a great team of folks in that I work with. You know, we don't buy the things it's easier to say what we don't do. I'm not a media buying service. That's not what we do. We're not a big digital shop like you. That's what I would do is if I got a call from New York or somebody, I'd say, yeah, we work with some guys here in Nashville and they can handle that. And we would assemble that team then to do that. We don't develop web, but we would work with a web developer, maybe from the design standpoint or from the audience or the customer participation side. We may look at it differently. And one of the things I'm pretty good at and bringing my guys to the table with is to look at something as a consumer and say, hey, let's tweak it this way. Look at UX in that regard, from whether it's a message and crafting it a little tighter, or it's a medium we're using. Yeah. So I would say it's content creation is probably one of our stronger pieces, design, illustration, and then we've got studios over there that we rent out, and we've had agencies come in and shoot in them. Wow. So I hadn't met a project I don't like yet.
Well, that content is so important, so valuable to, you know.
And I'm so tired of it just being created, thrown against the wall, and you can tell, man, when it's not really crafted.
Yeah. And
it's just, it's like my 16-year-old son lives in ChatGPT, and I'm like, write something. Sit down and write something and struggle with the words.
Do you get most? I mean, those are some huge brands. Do you get most of them through agency referral partners, or are they just people that you've known from the past?
Yeah, it's just, I've been in biz dev and advertising now since, I gave it away earlier, since the 80s. So, over 40 years. And so you just know, Steve Jobs had the best quote or best story about he and Bill Hewlett when he called Bill for parts. And you may have heard that story. And he just picked the phone book up, looked up his number, called him at home. He answered it. And he said, I want to pick up some parts. And Bill Hewlett, at 13 years old, hired Steve Jobs and to come in. And Steve's lesson in that was, don't be afraid to make the phone call. So whether it's picking the phone call up or making that phone call, I think so many people are afraid to do that. So I'm not afraid to knock on a door.
Well, you said that you helped IO Studios grow from 25 to 350?
A little over 300, yeah, employees. And Mitch and Ed might tell you we got too big too quick, but it was really fun at the time. We had some amazing creative people there, some great clients, and we just, I love the biz dev piece of advertising, getting to know a brand, getting to know the people behind the brand, looking at the audience, understanding the ecosystem of their what they're trying to accomplish. I love that.
Yeah.
I call that a first through third inning guy. Fourth, fifth, sixth, I get lost a little bit out getting popcorn, but I love the first through third inning, and then I love seventh, eighth, and ninth inning. So, that's how I look at it.
Up to this point, since you've started this, what's been the project you're the most proud of that maybe was created by you and the team over there?
I think it probably is that Mercedes piece we did, because it was an engaging piece, and I love the illustrator. He's since moved to Philadelphia, and we still work with him on a daily basis. That, and then this clothing thing we did I think it's gonna
really
win some awards. Not that that's why we do it, but I think it's going to sell some clothes too. So I would say that was probably those two are my favorite projects. I would say the Goo Goo Shop was great because it was about a 16-month, 18-month project. We got to roll our sleeves up and work on in-store design and look at shelving and get this, when you get to go under the hood with your client, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
a whole lot of fun.
Well, man, this has been so great, and I know we've talked about a lot, but is there anything maybe I didn't ask you, or something you want to share about anything?
Oh gosh, I would just say I'm really proud of Nashville right now. That's what I would say. I've been a part of Nashville creative community now for a long time, and I think it's stronger than it's ever been. I think that the opportunities are here. I love the new conversations that are being had by people that are moving here. I hope we don't lose our charm. I hope they don't put it under glass and do that. But yeah, man, a lot of native Nashvillians don't like the new Nashville, and I love it. And no, man, I would invite everybody to come by and have a average cup of coffee with us.
Well, you started in music, which Nashville's known for.
Yeah.
Got into storytelling, and now everything you're doing today with such an amazing mission, amazing company. It's just that a lot of people are going to be very inspired about it.
Thanks, Mark.
What do you think is the special sauce of Nashville today?
I think the special sauce of Nashville is people, and I think it has always been that since day one. I love people, and I think Nashvillians love people. We always loved it when people would come. We wish they had left maybe a little more often than they did, and they're all staying now. I'm kidding, but I think we love people, and I think we love conversation. We love to sit and have a glass of tea and talk about stuff. We love to go to a diner and sit and have a conversation. I think the music industry is built on songwriting before production. Buddy Killen started Tree Publishing because he didn't have enough songs to cut on artists, so he went and wrote them and started a publishing company. So I think the old days of publishing and writing and all of that helped spawn and healthcare and helped spawn other things that became collaborative efforts between hospitals and people. And I think that's a secret sauce. I think having 5 universities, major universities in our city, TSU, Vanderbilt, Lipscomb, Belmont, Tribeca, some great universities with great people. People move here for that, and they stay here. So I think it brings some great talent here. I would have said the weather until the ice storm, but
that was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. But anyway, it's I would say it's the people.
Yeah. Well,
one word.
Tom, thanks so much for sharing your journey. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for everything you're doing and you have done for Nashville's creative community throughout the years. Thank you all for joining the show as well. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our channel so that we can get this message out to more people. Please go and support Tom and the crew over at The Ability Machine. It's amazing what you're doing, and look forward to getting involved in it if I can. So really a great thing. We'll see you next time on The Spark.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Spark from Creative Assembly. Thanks for spending time with us and exploring the minds shaping Nashville's creative future. If you're walking away more inspired, connected, or energized, that's exactly the point. A big thank you to our sponsor, Snapshot, and the incredible team behind the scenes who make this show possible. Your support fuels every conversation and keeps collaboration alive. So if you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, stay creative, stay curious, and keep that spark.